Hi guys, welcome back to my booktube channel. My name is Chetna and I make book related videos on this channel. So if you love reading, make sure you subscribe to my channel. So today's video is a book review of my recent favorite book, and that is 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. I have talked about this book in my previous videos and I cannot stress enough how good this book is. So yeah, let's just get started. Okay, starting from the plot of the book, this book has two intertwined stories which are set in two different time periods. So first story starts with Ella, who works in a literacy agency. She lives in US with her husband David and 3 children. So when we look at her life, we think that she's pretty much happy and she's well settled, yet there is an emptiness in her life. So she's in her 40s, and after a certain point she realizes that there is no love between husband and her. So her husband is cheating on her since years, and she has accepted that fact in just to not to split the family. So next, Ella is assigned to write a book review for her debut novel, which is written by Aziz, who lives in Amsterdam and usually keeps traveling. So she starts reading the novel Sweet Blasphemy, and we are reading that novel with Ella. So after a certain point she realizes that this story is much relevant to her life right now, and just out of curiosity she writes an email to the author and they start talking. So this was one part of the story. Our second story is set in late 1200s, and it is about the very famous poet Rumi and how he got into poetry. So we are introduced to Shams of Tabriz, who is a wandering dervish, and he sets off to a journey to find Rumi and transfer his wisdom to him and become his mentor. Shams teaches Rumi the 40 Rules of Love, which are beautifully written, and they have very good meaningful conversations, and eventually this is a beautiful story of how Rumi, who was a preacher or a scholar, and he gets transformed into a very well-known poet, and it's simply amazing. So coming back to Ella's side of story, Ella falls in love with Aziz, and she's very happy now, but something happens which totally changes her life. I'll talk about it in the spoiler section, which reminds me that in this video I'm also gonna talk about spoilers. So if you are reading this book right now or you are planning to read, you can totally skip that part. I will put a timestamp and also give a warning whenever I start the spoiler section. Okay, so coming to the things that I really loved about this book, first was the style of narration. The story of Rumi and Shams is told from the perspective of different characters from this book. So be it any beggar, a prostitute, a drunk person, Rumi's wife, his son, and there are a lot more characters. This, also tells you the backstory of each character, which makes you more related to the story. So next will be definitely the 40 rules, the actual 40 quotes, which are beautifully written. I used to, read them twice or thrice just to understand how deep the meaning is. So next, I really liked a character called as Desert Rose. She is the strongest character of them all, and I would like to read a little conversation between her and Shams, which I will never ever forget. So it goes like, she says, "Where? How? I have no place to go." "That's not a problem," Shams said, his eyes gleaming. "Fret not where the road will take you. Instead, concentrate on the first step. That's the hardest part, and that's what you are responsible for. Once you take that step, let everything do what it naturally does, and the rest will follow. Do not go with the flow. Be the flow." And there are numerous of such quotes and such conversations which hits right in your heart, and it's very beautifully written. So next, I really liked how this book questions all the social norms, like being a prostitute is a shame, and drinking alcohol is a sin, and it tells you that who are we to categorize these things into good or bad, and what gives us the right to do that. And Shams is indeed a very strong character. He's very knowledgeable, and he certainly has a very different perspective about all the things and how he impacts all the people around him and also us as a reader. So I'm now starting with the spoiler section. So if you are reading this book currently, or if you are planning to read this book, you can skip to this timestamp. Our second story is started on a very high note. So Shams is killed. Yes, he is killed, and when the killer puts his body into a well, his body flies up in the sky. So, and it just vanishes. So you are left there with your curiosity at this level, and you wonder what just happened right now. And one more revelation was that, which was indeed a shocking one, that Rumi's own son, his younger son, was also a killer. So yeah, that was pretty much interesting. So next, I really like that the negative angles also were discussed in this book, which makes a book very complete. So Rumi's wife Kara had a problem with Shams, and she really did not understand their companionship, and but eventually she gets used to the fact. There was one incident where Shams goes away after he has taught everything to Rumi, and Rumi is totally devastated. So after that, she had a chance just not to bring Shams back in their lives, but she took a step back and she did not encourage it. And finally, coming to the last thing which really catches your attention is when Ella falls in love with Aziz, and she finds out that Aziz has cancer and he has very less time left with him. And she had an option to just forget about everything and go back and live her normal life with her family, but she decides to live those days with Aziz, and it totally changes her world. And so yeah, that's my take on 40 Rules of Love. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I would highly recommend you to pick this book, and I would suggest that do not rush through this book. Read this book without any judgment, and this book needs to be savored. And just my personal opinion, that pick this book if you are above 17 or 18. No, there is nothing odd in this book, but I just feel like you need a certain kind of maturity just to understand the depth of this book, the things that are said in this book. And with that said, I'll stop here. So if you have watched this video till here, make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and yes, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.